Welcome, friends. Let us together rebuild this world so that we may live, laugh, and lore.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
Not listening. I'm not listening.
Oh, that took.
Program loaded and ready.
Make it so.
Welcome to the
Live, Laugh, Lore Podcast.
We're your hosts. I'm Tony.
And I'm Mark.
And so, Mark, we have episode 32 today.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing the classic what if mix-up scenario. WIMU. And yeah, we both looked at it and we're like, MU, what is that? I was like, oh, mix-up, WIMU.
Not emu like the Liberty Mutual commercials.
Yeah,
WIMU.
Liberty. But I hope they get tagged with that now.
Yeah, right?
It'll
be the ad on YouTube.
yeah. Lore podcast talks about insurance companies. But no, so today, specifically what we talk about with our what if is a Game of Thrones what if. So
It's been a little while since we've been in the world, like since Jenna, right?
I was about to say it's been a hot minute, but also we're still on parental leave. So all today, I was asking Jenna, we actually had a pediatric appointment this morning, and I was like, on our drive, I was telling her what we were thinking about, and we were talking about it back and forth, and she gave some great notes. So this is, of course, Jenna inspired, Jenna influenced, she's still within the realm. Anything Game of Thrones, just rest assured, listeners, Jenna's got her hand in it and somehow. So, no, super excited about this one. We're actually talking about the phrase. So, before we talk about the phrase, really quick, Mark, I forgot to bring up too. There's a little bit of surprise because we didn't even talk about before we started this podcast, but I'm doing right on there. I want your immediate reaction.
Here we go.
I am starting a new page in my life, Mark, other than being a father. I'm starting a new page.
In a new book or just same book, new page?
Same book. Yeah, same book, new page. Okay. I'm still reading Red Rising. Fantastic series. Oh my gosh. Everyone read Red Rising. It's so good. No, I, no joke, started One Piece. Got a Crunchyroll account, whole 9 yards. Been going through One Piece. And I will say, I would recommend this to a lot of people, Mark included. Find yourselves the gurus of whatever franchise you're about to jump into. Get a group message with them and do live text back and forth whenever your thought comes to your mind when you watch something, right? That has made One Piece so much more fun. Like now, Mark, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like episode 16. I'm already loving it because I have Joe and Paul in the background and I'm texting them like as I go. I'm like, dude, Gobi, unreal. You know what I mean? And like, dude, Django, and he's like doing his thing. Like, oh, okay. It's just so much fun to like talk about it in real time with them. And I just really want to talk to listeners about that and being like, oh my gosh, like I think I unlocked something. Like when something seems so monolithic and so crazy, like if you started watching Star Trek and you texted me, you're like, dude, this episode was wild. Like, not only does that, like, fire me up, that should, like, fire you up, because now you kind of, like, there's a little bit like a feedback loop almost. Instead of just, like, watching it and going, oh, that's kind of cool. Now you have, like, it's almost like, I know we're just redefining book club in a visual media, but it really is almost like a book club where, like, no joke, I'm doing, like, every 3 episodes, I make, like, a comment or two, and I text them. It's super fun, so... One, if you want to start me on my journey, and maybe we can do a One Piece corner, and I just say what I texted Joe and stuff. Some of the messages are a little vulgar. I might want to not say them out loud, but I could show you some of the messages after when we're done. But or maybe that's an extra thing I can post on. Maybe one mailbag episode. We just go through the highlights of my One Piece chat with Joe and Paul. But no, it's absolutely fantastic. I just wanted to make that quick point because it's actually really fun. So I don't know if you have any franchises that you're trying to get into or anything like that, but for dear listeners, like also we're great avenues too. Like if someone wants to come out and be like, hey, I want to attack Red Rising for the first time. Because, oh, by the way, the other deal, too, is that since I'm watching One Piece, Paul has to read Red Rising. So now Paul just bought Red Rising yesterday. He showed us the Amazon cart and screenshot it to Jen and myself. Yeah. And so now he's going to be texting us Red Rising updates. So now it's like this fun, remote book club, visual club. I don't know. It's just so much fun. So.
Well, next time I have paternity level of time off, I'll let you know. And
I will say I don't think I would have dove into One Piece as hard. But now that paternity leave is such an odd you have all the time in the world and yet you have no time in the world. Like it's so crazy, you know. Because it's crazy. I probably go more in depth, but absolutely no, for sure, Mark. If you ever find yourself doing anything, and also I want to get updates on Hogwarts Legacy if you don't mind. Have you played any since we've last talked?
No, I've been a little bit of a hiatus, so
Okay, that's all right.
I think I've accomplished 2 of the teacher's challenges,
Oh, nice. Okay.
but that's it. That's the last time I played. I've just with Sean's wedding and stuff. It's just
There's so much going on.
But I do intend to get back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations to our previous podcast host when we did Rise of the Revamp. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, Sean. It's fantastic. And so we'll get right into the episode. But just want to do that little precursor. But so we're talking about the phrase here, Mark.
Yes.
So specifically with the phrase, we wanted to do a what if on the whole Robb Stark deal.
Yes, the Red Wedding. What
if he decided
to honor his marriage pact?
Correct.
And with the phrase, and not with
technically she didn't even she wasn't part of a house. I mean, she was just a wartime
Talisa,
nurse.
that was her name. Correct.
But she was she was like highborn, but she wasn't highborn.
She was lower class.
Yeah, I can't remember
Stark, but
but her family's not of Westeros. Her family's somewhere else.
It's a free city.
Yeah,
she's from one of the biggest free city in Westeros, but it's not part of the kingdom.
So it's all of the continent Westeros.
Yeah.
But okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and she tended to his wounds after a battle, and they fell in love.
Wartime nurse, baby.
And he risked it all. Literally, he risked it all for this nurse.
Which is crazy because the books is actually way different.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's still like this nurse figure, but it was more or less like... So, Jenna, I think she might have mentioned it during her thing,
yeah,
but
now that you
the
say
whole
that.
point was that it wasn't like out of love. Robb literally wanted to get his rocks off, did the deed with this woman, and was like, I'm such an honorable... So same thing, honor comes into it, but it was less about love, it was more about honor. So now he's like a Ned Stark, truly. He's truly Ned Stark's son.
Yeah.
Because he said, I took your virtue, I need to marry you to honor you. And so now he's bound to this woman, you know what I mean, just out of honor, rather than like this love story between this nurse and him. So it's a little different, than the books. And I think the movie did a really good call on making it more about love. But if you wanted to go more about the books, he's definitely Ned Stark's son, where it's about honor at the end of the day. Yeah. So,
let's face it, she was better looking than any of Walder Frey's daughters.
Yeah. And he didn't get the deal. Oh my gosh, the other Stark, Karstark's deal.
Oh,
you remember his deal? Basically, Walder Frey said, "You can marry any of my daughters, and for how much they weigh is how much silver I'll give you." So that's why he picks the biggest one.
Yeah.
It's just a silver thing, which I was like, looking back at that, I was like, what the heck? I didn't even realize that was part, but that was part of the thing. But
he's like, worth it. I'll be rich.
I'll take the money. Yeah, which he's kind of already a prominent figure. But so actually, so now we've kind of got the bones of it, but let's actually talk about the Frey household because that will kind of set stuff up. And just for our dear listeners, of course, always spoiler alerts with this what if stuff.
Yes.
And I think the other thing, too, is that we're kind of establishing the main turning point is this deal that the Freys are having. The Freys made a deal with the Starks. The Starks are basically in this battle. Robb Stark is fighting against the tyranny of Joffrey. He doesn't believe Joffrey is the true king. His dad just got executed.
Yep.
And they're kind of, hellbound to go to go south and figure out what's going on.
They're from the north. Yep.
They're from the north, yep.
And he's got to make a deal with Walder Frey because he's got the twins' river crossing.
Yep.
They can go another way, but it's going to take
way
too much
longer,
and it's way too close to King's Landing. They want to get to River Run, which is by the Tullys, which is Catelyn Stark.
Exactly,
And so they want to get reinforcements there, and that's just the quickest way.
Yeah, and it makes total sense tactically. And the Freys know that.
Yeah.
And that's why all this history is going to now make a lot more sense. Mm-hmm. So now that's the set stage. Let's talk about the Freys in general. First off, Freys are the youngest house in Westeros. Crazy to think about. When they say youngest, it's like 600 years old. So youngest is a relative term, but one of the youngest major houses.
Yeah.
And you might ask, okay, what the heck happened? How did this all start? Where basically the first Frey went in and he was awarded lands of the River Run. I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember that area.
Yeah.
But basically
the Riverlands,
The Riverlands, yeah. So he specifically got the land, 2 parts of the land that go in between the Green Fork. And so this now king, or head of the house, now saw the opportunity, was like, oh man, geographically this is going to be huge. So let's start constructing a bridge on this. And it's not enough to construct a bridge because now we have to do our stronghold. So normally every single house has like a stronghold. They have a force. You know, they have some castle, so to speak. Castle is kind of a rough term because it's not like, you know, the Red Keep where it's a huge castle. But, you know, they have some stronghold that holds the power of the land. They decided to then split up to two identical ones, which is the crossings, right? The twins, exactly. So this was like a crazy deal that people were kind of looking at this new house going, all right, like what's going on? Little did they know that they would then become these basically charging people to gather and move across the Great Forks, which is, you know, like we said for Robb Stark, when you want to go, you know, south, this is actually pretty, it cuts your travel distance in like half, something crazy. So, with that being said, they've gotten the whole, they're like the Sun Pass of Westeros, and they've got this whole, or Easy Pass for, you know, Midwesterns, but they've got this whole, like, now, like, common name, they're called the Toll Collectors. And that's how they start rising to power, is literally they're just charging people to go across the bridge. And so this is such a prominent and useful business tactic that they actually made it into their house emblem. So their house emblem is a field of gray, and there's just two blue towers called the Twins, and that's their house emblem. So, which is kind of funny because in that area of Westeros, all the emblems are kind of wild. Like, you have the North, it's like direwolf. Yeah. You know, you have the Karstarks and their, you know, flayed man. It's like crazy strong, you know. Oomph.
Bear Island, you know.
Bear Island, yeah. Now in these part of the lands, it's literally two blue towers. Yeah. Which is the phrase, and then the Tullys are just a fish.
Fish jumping.
And then most of the lowlands around there are like hay farmer, like little, you know, just very
then
like
you have the Lannisters with the lion, and then the Baratheons with the stag.
Yeah,
right?
so,
but they're on the coast, you know.
Yeah, which is so funny. So like the heart of everything is just like agriculture, fish, stone, you know, whatever. So it's just kind of funny that
wood
like,
and wheat.
They literally It's like, oh, we're playing Catan, like, you know what I mean? What's going on? So it's just kind of funny that, like, that's how they sought their power, and that's how they kept forward, like, you know, just the forward momentum of, hey, we're becoming not a respectable house, but we're becoming a quote-unquote powerful house just due to the money that we're collecting. And this is why I'm bringing up their history a little bit, is because this house is trying to do what they can to become prominent. Mm-hmm. Like, they're trying to break the seal, so to speak. They're trying to get past the ceiling that they've never been able to get past. Like, they're recognized as a house. They have the money, but they don't have the respect or the political power to do any sort of dealings in Westeros. Like, Littlefinger would not do much other than the strategic, like, other than, like, Robb Stark, for example. Like, they just bide their time until someone needs their bridge, and then they're like, all right, we're going to exploit them. That's, like, literally their whole gambit. Yeah. And so in history...
But if they don't need the bridge, then they're worthless.
Then they're worthless, and all they could do is just rely on their money.
Because they don't have, like, a strong army or anything, right?
No, not at all. I mean, they have an army of a house at that level, but not like Stark or they can't gather any banners.
They don't have any bannermen. That's what I was trying to yeah. Starks have Karstarks and a bunch of different families.
All them ones. Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's just kind of wild to see how they go through it. Yeah, Umbers, yeah. But so it's funny because the first way they try to break out of this is they basically go through this battle at the Greywater. They're just trying to take this land. It's their first kind of military conquest. Doesn't go too hot. I also forgot to mention, so we talked about the Tullys, the fish. Tullys are basically the ruling family of that area. Yeah. So they're the liege lords of the Freys. So, for example, like, the Karstarks are underneath the Starks. Yep. That is, you know, so the same relationship is the Freys are underneath the Tullys. Just as an FYI. And so they're just trying to basically figure out, you know, where do they need to be. So they're not like a major house, but they're a house nonetheless. The Tullys are the major house. Yeah. Catelyn Stark's family is the Tullys. Yeah. So we kind of see this first kind of military conquest. It doesn't go hot. They kind of drop off the face of the earth. But the reason why I bring up the Liege Lords and Tullys is it really matters when it comes into this Targaryen episode. So era, the Taylor Swift Targaryen era, if you want. But the whole point is Aegon the First, the Conqueror. So he is the namesake. So if you watch House of Dragon, Aegon is named after Aegon the Conqueror. Yeah. That's why he gets the black sword. He gets all this stuff. He gets, like, you know, they want him as emboldened because the Conqueror is known for literally just coming in, wrecking stuff up and saying, yes, this is mine. This is what's mine and I'm going to rule. Yeah. And so the reason why I want to kind of bring up these Targaryens really quick, there's a little bit of a quick Targaryen family craziness here. But the first one is that, so Aegon starts taking over. He then has 2 sons. Aenys is the true son. That's his first wife. They have a son, only a singular son. And then that son is kind of like this meek, weakly guy, constantly sick. But then he gets bound to a dragon called Quicksilver. And once he bounds, he actually gets well, so to speak. Like they don't know. Like that's the thing about Game of Thrones. They don't really recognize magic, and then sometimes they do recognize magic. You know what I mean? It's like it's a weird fantasy. Like the Red Woman has a lot of magic, but then who knows? And then Jon gets resurrected. So the magic system's a little bit funky. But regardless, this bond between this dragon kind of heals the son a little bit.
Yeah.
But his original wife dies. Aegon the First dies.
Yeah.
He's going crap because basically when the wife dies, Aenys starts dropping medically bad. Like he's just weak, sickly, not good.
Yeah.
So then he goes, okay, well, I need to figure out how to bolster. It's kind of like the House of Dragon all over again. It's like, how does my succession work? Do I really want to put my succession up to this sickly kid who I don't really know what's going on? And his council's kind of urging him going, no, you need to go marry someone else and have another kid. Bolster yourself because you want to have a backup plan because we don't trust this kid. So they have a backup plan. His name is Maegor the First. He's the backup son. Only thing, though, is that Aenys pulls out, and he's now the true son, and he is now alive and well ruling. Maegor is now discontent, saying, what the heck? Basically, the lands recognized me, but, we're just going off this old rule as your first son. Even though he's weak, I'm better than him in every single way.
Yeah.
Aenys has a son named Aegon. They call him the Uncrowned, but it's after his grandpa, right? Or his father, but yeah, his the son's grandpa.
Yeah.
So Aegon is second, technically, uncrowned. He is now technically the king, but Maegor comes up and was just like, nope. Now there's this big dispute between Aegon, the uncrowned, and Maegor, the cruel, technically.
Yeah.
And so now there's this huge back and forth, blah, blah, blah. Whole point is that now we have a Targaryen civil war. Here's where the Freys come in.
So the House of the Dragon's not... it's not unique. It's
no.
Targaryens have been feuding for years.
Correct.
Okay.
This whole succession is and that's why I thought the House of Dragon was unique until I started going. By the way, it's called the Song of Ice and Fire wiki, and I started looking all that up, and it's like, oh my gosh. So if you look up the Targaryen house, talk about what you think is a cyclical loop, because they all name themselves like Aegon, Viserys, and Rey. There's so many same names that it's hard to figure out what page you're even on.
Yeah, who's who.
And how to reconstruct it. So, but the point is that the reason why I bring all this up, one is cool lore, the fact that Targaryens are up to their old self, right?
And
they're infighting.
Who would we be if we didn't bring up lore?
And who would we be, exactly. But the real big thing is that now this matters because what do the lands do? Because when you have an unrecognized king saying he should be there and legitimacy is in question, how these houses back up those claims matters.
Yep.
So, for example, the Tullys, they go, hey, we need to back up Maegor, right? The people decided that, he's the stronger son. He's kind of more in line with what Aegon the Conqueror is doing. This sickly guy and his son, we should prune them off way long ago. We need to go after them. Whereas the Freys, they're saying, okay, we need to side with Aegon. So the whole point is that now the Liege Lord is going one way, and this house is going another way, and they're kind of now just there's butting up against each other, and once again, the Freys don't come up on top.
Yeah,
everything works out. Maegor's king. Now they're back to their ground one, which is they're just back to being toll collectors. So sorry, that was a really long winded way of saying they went against our liege lords. It didn't work out. So we literally had the Battle of Greywater.
Yeah, stopped.
First military conquest, stopped. They have the first political attempt, which is, hey, the Targaryens are infighting. They say, nope, I'm going to go this way. Stops. So then finally, they're like, okay, there's another way, right? So you have battle, and you have the political sphere. The only other way to really gain strength in this world is marital.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do. Viserys, which is now we're in House of Dragon. Viserys has Rhaenys. Viserys 1 has Rhaenys. This is his daughter, his eldest daughter. And they're looking at this, like, watering at the mouth, going, oh my gosh, if we can get in on this. Because then they're going to be technically king.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like king consort, whatever.
Prince consort, yeah.
Yeah. However you want to deal with that. Paul still a consort in Elden Ring. Let that fact show. Sorry, Paul. But the point is the fact that they are now looking at this pact going, oh my gosh. So this guy named Forrest Frey is like, long shot, but let's go. He presents himself in front of Rhaenys and is like, Rhaenyra. I was saying Rhaenys, my bad. It's Rhaenyra.
Rhaenys is the princess.
The aunt. Who the first succession question came in. Yep. Sorry.
Oldest grandchild, but not the oldest grandson. Yeah,
it gets all, So Rhaenyra, sorry, that's what it is. I said Rhaenys, but Rhaenyra is now looking, you know how in this scene she's like looking for different people to marry and they bring up like, more people to bring up and Lancers come up and Starks come up, everything like that. So the Freys put their hat in the ring and basically gets laughed out of the room. Forrest Frey is now forever known as the Fool's Frey. Because they're looking at him, they're like, you are a joke. You think you're going to, like, all these other huge houses, like the Tullys were even trying to get married off.
Tullys, Starks.
Everyone. And they're like, you think you even have a chance in this room? Like, you literally just wasted your money coming here, like, kind of deal. And he was laughed out of the room. Like, didn't even get considered, laughed out of the room. And so, once again, that's the third time. The 3 different ways that you can gain political sphere, the Freys have been embarrassed every time.
Yeah.
So, now let's start talking about the modern era. Now we're going to get close to this what if, but the whole point is now we're in the modern era. Now we have Walter Frey coming in.
Argus Filch,
exactly. And so, Walter is now, he's kind of keeping he's keeping the road. He's going, let me still collect these tolls coming in. Let's keep our house stable, but we're going to kind of do what we can, but not shake the apple cart too much. So he's kind of being stable. The only issue is that he's almost being a little too conservative because he's trying to marry off all of his kids. Fun fact, Walter Frey alone had 9 wives, 22 sons, and 7 daughters. So when it comes to the marriage sphere, Walter Frey has nothing but options.
Yeah.
But the only problem is that his house is not prominent enough.
Yeah.
So he's able to marry off his kids to like these prominent houses like the Lannisters. But they're like the descendant of the aunt of the cousin once removed, like whatever. But the problem that he's really getting discontent on is the fact that the Lannisters are playing ball. The Tullys aren't. So he's not able to marry off any of his kids to the Tullys. And that is causing a rift. Because he's getting frustrated because he's going, I'm working with the Lannisters, but I'm not getting anywhere with the Tullys.
Yeah.
So you can kind of start seeing the seeds of the Red Wedding start being sown right there because the Tullys, which are the liege lords of that area,
of the river,
should be playing ball, and they're not.
Yeah.
And also, Walter Frey is a huge, Walter Frey's not liked. Let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
The reason why he's not liked is literally the Rob Baratheon with Ned Stark did Robert's Rebellion.
Yeah.
That's when they started taking over Westeros. That's when the Baratheons are coming in and they take over the crown. Whole point, though, there is that there was this huge major battle called the Battle of the Trident. And by the way, all these battles you can look up way more in depth. If we went any of these, it gets way too crazy. But so the Battle of the Trident happens. The problem was that Walter Frey said that he was going to bring his people there.
And he didn't.
Honored it. He technically did.
Okay.
But the battle was already won. The last man was like close to being slain, and then the Freys joined it. So technically they kept their word. Their people joined the battle. But the only problem is they joined at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
When everything was already figured out. Or, I don't know, 24th, whatever hour. The whole point is like the battle was basically done. So then they gave him he's called the late Walter Frey. People think it meant like he was old, but no, he was literally just late to this battle.
Yeah. And
that actually caused a lot of discontent to all the rebellion in those houses because they don't respect the Freys. They're like, wait, so we had to pay this extraordinary amount of tolls to cross your lands. Now we ask for your bannermen, and you literally bring them in at the last minute.
Right.
Like, you're the lowest of the low. Not the lowest of the low. We don't want to play ball with you.
Yeah.
So then now it's kind of this whole, like, whether Walter realizes it or not, he's not looking great. Because he has a ton of family members he wants to get married off. but no one wants to play ball with him. He's messing up on every corner. And now he's just doing what classic Freys do, which is stay the course. Something's going to fall into your lap. And lo and behold, second rebellion, Robb Stark comes at his doorstep and goes, we need to cross.
Yeah.
And now we're back in the modern. Now we're like literally back where we started. But really quick, one thing that threw me off was the deal. I want to talk about this deal really quick, and then we can go with a what if. Sorry, this takes so much exposition, but honestly, we both needed. Yeah. I needed this because I was looking at this and I'm like, I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, and this is good because it sets up why he did what he did in the main storyline. Yeah,
and now it makes more sense. Like the house history and him, but the crazy thing was actually his deal. I don't know if they talk about this in the show. They definitely talk about it in the books. But it was just presented as Robb just has to marry somebody, right? Turns out that's not the case at all. Because, well, it is the case, partly. The first thing is he says, Catelyn, you're going to take 2 of my kids, and they're going to be wards for you. Just like how Theon Greyjoy is.
Yeah.
A little different because Theon was a ward taken out of a rebellion from his family.
Yeah.
Don't want to get too much in depth, so he's kind of like a ward in distress, whatever you want to call that. But regardless, they're taking 2 wards because that's a way to bolster your house. It's basically the closest thing you can get to a marriage pact.
Yeah.
It's a ward pact. You know what I mean? And so he's kind of, he's now recognizing, hey, I can get more of these Northlands with me. And then that might bolster my house. So he's kind of like saying these deals because he realized Robb Stark is in such dire needs of this passage. Yeah. Exactly what Walter Frey wants. Yeah. So now he can just say the world. He likes
to be needed.
Yeah, he's writing his old lottery ticket. Yeah. And write his lottery ticket he does. Because the first thing is he says, I want 2 children's wards. The second thing he says is, I want Arya to marry his 22nd son, his youngest son. Now, that's like, whoa, okay, so you're taking...
Yeah, I don't remember that being in the show.
I don't remember that either. It's got to be books. So then she's like, you got to marry Arya. So then they're like, okay. And he goes, oh, just FYI too, I want Robb to take my 18th son as a squire. And then now, like, the Starks are going like, all right, like, dude, like you covered your ground. Like, you have wards. You now have a marriage. You now have military prowess, which is coming in with a son. We're good.
Yeah.
Great, this meeting's over. And he goes, wait.
Nope, I want Robb to get married.
I want Robb to get... So now my daughter is going to be potentially the queen of the realm. And they're like, you are literally staking your whole house and everything on, connections with the ward, connection with another marriage, which is Arya Stark, and connection with the battlements, which is the squire. But now you're going to, like, quadruple down with doing that. And just to show how dire they are, they accepted the deal, which is insane. Like, the Starks literally gave it over.
Yeah, because they had no choice.
They had no choice. They would have been dead on arrival. They couldn't have done anything. And they're literally making, quote-unquote, a deal with the devil. Yeah. And that is where we're at. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Like, that build-up, like, when I was doing this research, I was just sitting there going, like, oh my gosh, like, you can, I don't know, it's kind of like the rule of 3 with, like, comedy, but also writing. You can literally see just throughout their whole history and now throughout their deal, you can now understand why he's doing the deal. Because he's going, we don't have military prowess, so let's get a squire in there. We don't have family connections, let's get marital. We don't have politics, let's get wards. So it's like, it's so crazy. But, all right, Mark, I'm going to let you talk. I'm so sorry. This is just a huge prelude.
No, it's good. That's good to know. And then, like we mentioned earlier, he decides to get with Talisa, or however you say her name.
Yeah, Talisa.
We need Jenna.
Yeah, I know. Hey, Jen. Yeah.
And then, so because of that, he decides he's not going to honor the commitment, but says he offers up his uncle,
which is now a
Tully, which is attractive to Walder Frey.
What they think is attractive.
But he's he's working with the Lannisters and the Boltons, and then they come in, and
little does he know that they're working with the Boltons. Yeah. Because they just think like they're like, hey, we're gonna honor everything. Yeah. But the books also say too, they're gonna honor like everything, but like just instead of Robb, get the Tully. Like, you want to get married to House Tully anyway, and you're also married to the Starks. So like in a weird way, like Walter Frey was so close to everything he could have ever wanted. But his own greed caused him to get screwed.
Correct. So then we see the Red Wedding take place. Edmure and one of the daughters get married, and they're supposed to go consummate the marriage. But the Boltons were there, and they were...
all sort of bad. And I think the other thing, too, really quick, just to add on to that, is the fact of there is this ancient tradition in Westeros,
Yes, the right of guests.
the right of guests. And so already Walter Frey was not liked.
Yeah.
They're the toll collectors. They know that his house is
were
literally
late.
like ill-gotten gains. It's a late thing, everything like that. But they put the nail in the coffin of their house by basically stating that was like, it's a big scene right
Yeah.
before the Red Wedding. And when they're having the deal, they make a point of it. Every prominent member of both houses, the Starks and the Freys, are under one roof. They dine. They eat a piece of bread with the stew or whatever, and they take a drink.
Yes.
And at that moment, under this rite, everyone is safe.
Yes.
It is a well-known document. Like, if you're going to do anything, do it before they eat it. And so now all the bets are off. Everyone thinks they're safe. Then the Red Wedding happens. That's why it's such a big travesty, because this is like an ancient tradition. Like, no one messes with this.
Right, and that percolates through the land, so he's even more hated now than he was before.
Big time. He's already had a really bad reputation, but now he's exacerbated that tenfold.
And so I actually read there was parallelism to it because some lord said, well, they will be punished by the old gods and the new. And so, like, they are all, like, Robb was killed with, like, a crossbow. Mm-hmm. And so that Tywin was killed by Tyrion with a crossbow.
Oh.
Roose Bolton was stabbed in the heart, just like he did to
Robb, technically.
Robb,
Yeah.
And then Walder Frey was slit. His throat was slit, just like Catelyn Stark was
Wow,
slit.
okay.
So there was parallelism there.
I didn't realize that. I didn't
Parallelism.
even think
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And they carried out. And oh, by the way, just as a FYI, yeah, the Frey house got eliminated by Arya Stark
Yeah.
solo, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, she killed his sons, baked it into a pie, and fed it to him.
And then killed him.
Yeah. Can you, like, oh my God, can you?
Dude, all you had to do was marry a freaking Tully.
Yeah.
That's all you had to do. Walter, all you had to do. Like, it's one of those things where, like, someone gets an ounce of power and they just, like, don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And I think this is, like, the grandest story of all time, where it's like, dude, you could have done literally anything. Like, the 98% solution is better than the 100% solution, because the 100% solution was just so unattainable. You'd been better off with the 80, 90% solution, which is crazy to think about. But
Yeah. Okay.
And so now we're at what if territory,
Yes,
which is so
yes.
funny that, like, now we're getting to the
Now we're getting back to it. So the premise of it is that Robb goes through with it, and he marries a Frey daughter.
Yes. Let's say whether the book or the show standing, he's able to swallow his pride or swallow the honor that he feels, and he goes through with the Frey wedding.
Yes.
See, this is where it's difficult. This is where the what ifs can take two forks.
Yep.
Whether he goes with it or not, the Tullys might still go with the Lannisters. Meaning they still might execute the Red Wedding.
You mean the Freys, not the Tullys.
Sorry. Yeah. My bad. The Freys still might go on with the Red Wedding, because I think that there's like two logic posts. I think they still might go with the Red Wedding, because they still might go, man, this Karstark and Lannister stuff, you're a rebellion just like Robert Baratheon. Robert Baratheon was able to do the rebellion. That was 1,000,000 odds. What's the chances that lightning strikes twice? You know what I mean? He might be literally asking himself, so he might still execute that Red Wedding.
Yeah.
And I think the other side of it, too, is he goes through with it, and what happens?
Yeah. So I think, so Walder Frey, he's tricksy.
Yeah.
As Smeagol would say.
Yeah. He's also a cleaner of his school where everyone could clean with a flick of the wand, but they make him do it.
Yeah,
which is,
right?
I mean,
Squib, yeah.
Yeah. Rough. So I get it.
So this is how I think it goes down, right?
Yeah.
So everything is, like you said, he's greedy. But he got everything he wanted. But
With
it's
the
deal. But it's still not enough, right? So it's not that he's searching something out, but if something falls in his lap,
he can do it.
He can do it.
Why not?
So this is kind of how I see it progressing. Okay, so they have the wedding. So it's a normal wedding. It's not a red wedding. This, Robb
goes through the normal wedding.
Robb marries the
Eldest
Frey daughter, whatever.
whatever.
Yeah. They get safe passage to River Run. Okay.
Okay.
So I was reading that it was not in the show, but it was in the books, that Robb's plan was to legitimize Jon Snow in case that he could not have a son with his wife,
Correct.
with Talisa, or one of the Frey daughters,
or he dies in battle.
Yep. Catelyn was not the biggest fan of that, but it's fine.
Little does she know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Walter Frey hears of that.
Well, so I'm thinking up north, it's still going on that Theon takes Winterfell because the Starks are gone. Remember, he decides to betray them and takes it. Okay.
Yeah.
Robb hears about this at the wedding, so he frantically writes to Jon and legitimizes him via Raven. I don't know if he can do that.
Yeah,
whatever.
probably. Because at this point, Jon is at Castle Black.
Correct. And so
If he gets legitimized, then he can leave.
I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, well, he's the king of the North, but I don't know. So,
I don't know, yeah.
Jon Snow can figure that out. Well,
But no,
Jon
I'm saying,
Stark, you know.
Yeah, Jon Stark. But I will say, I think that I'm not trying to poke a hole at that. I think that's perfect. I'm just saying, like, I think now Jon can leave. I'm saying he can leave Castle Black.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to. Yeah.
So he sends a raven to Jon saying, "I legitimize you, and I name you my heir in case of my demise, or I can't conceive." You know.
Oh, by the way,
Theon, who we thought we liked, has taken the castle.
Our childhood brother,
and supposedly our brothers are dead because at this
allegedly.
point he brought like the two farm boys burned.
Yeah, jeez, wow.
Meanwhile, they're chilling in the crypt below.
Yeah, Hodor, baby.
Hodor.
But no, that's crazy. Okay, I love it already.
So
Jon Stark's legitimized.
Yes. So he asked Jon to, now you're my legit heir, gather some remaining bannermen that are loyal to us up north.
Yeah.
And retake it. Theon shouldn't be a big, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they even said it like he like literally they're like, "Hey, you made your point, leave."
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? We can't hold this fort,
right?
Even if we wanted to,
right?
And I think the other thing too is that like I wonder if Castle Black, even though they take no banner, I wonder if they're like, "Hey, there's so much instability, we'll give you some of our men to help." But I don't know. I don't think they would waste their time. But regardless, Jon musters some crew.
Yeah, right.
He's got to have some pull. I mean,
meanwhile, Roose Bolton has been in talks with the Lannisters.
Yeah,
and he wants to elevate his status. Mm-hmm. And he is a minor house. He's like the Freys, right?
Yeah. No, he's exactly the Freys
for the Starks.
Yeah.
But he's going around campaigning against Jon and Robb, saying he has no right to legitimize
his son,
Jon,
or his brother. And so, because he is an bastard child himself.
Well, Ramsay is. Roose is not.
No. Yeah, but I'm just
Roose
saying.
Has one. He said, "I'm not legitimizing mine."
Exactly.
Know?
That's where I think he's getting discontent because he's going, whoa! If you're legitimizing anybody, I literally have my son and heir here. Yeah. I'm not legitimizing him. This is wrong. That's what I'm saying. I think the motivation's there.
Yes, correct.
On why he's so ill content with the legitimization.
Right, and so that's why he's going around the north now, working against Jon. Right, and so Jon is now struggling to get bannermen. Yeah, because of it. But Robb can't do anything because he's down. It doesn't make sense for him to go north, then to come back down. Right,
and that also brings in the Lannister coercion too.
Yeah,
because now he's saying because they're trying to find any cracks in the north. Yeah, and they hear Roose Bolton is actively campaigning against Robb, legitimizing Jon. Yeah, like this is exactly what we needed.
Yeah,
you know,
and so there's literally a civil war in the north while there's a war of. There's a Game of Thrones happening. There's a Game of Winterfell happening too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of discontent going on all over the place.
Yeah, because then you get the weird like northern houses. Do they respect Jon? Do they respect? Because then they're like of the old ways. So how are they going to feel about the legitimization of Jon? I don't know. I'd like to think Mormonts are cool. They're going to help Jon.
Yes.
We get Mormonts in earlier.
Yeah.
Because they're literally like, we know no king under the north except for the name of Stark.
I think the small girl, you know. I think he gets enough to take out Theon, because that's an easy thing.
I think that's it.
But, and at this point, I think Rickon and Bran have already escaped, because they were going to go to Castle Black to find Jon anyway.
Yep.
Bran goes off and does his three-eyed raven thing, so that's fine.
By the way, do you think Theon survives? And do you think they question him and they know that the kids are actually okay? Like, meaning, like, I just want to just quickly tie that up. Meaning, like, does Theon expose himself and say, ooh, shoot, you know, I messed up. I actually killed 2 farm boys. You can see these bodies. I burned them so no one would know. I actually have no idea where your brothers are, but they're alive.
So I think it comes to that. So Jon, I think, will be merciful to Theon. Right?
I think so,
I don't think he would kill him.
I think he'd be pissed, but I don't think he's
absolutely. and he's just like, we treated you like a brother. I can't believe you would have killed our brothers. And then we see Theon break down. It wasn't, I was just trying to show my strength. That I
was
have
never
no
a
idea.
true brother. I was a ward.
Yeah.
You guys don't understand.
Yeah.
But then John's also going to come back and go, what do you mean I don't understand? I'm literally a bastard
yeah.
in this house. Like, I have more blood in this house, and they probably treated us the same. Mm-hmm. And I literally have stick in the game. Like, this is crazy. So, yeah, I bet you it's going to be a huge coming together, separation, whatever, like, moment between them.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Theon moved, is going to be like, they're actually gone. I killed 2 farm boys. But he did kill the Karstark, the cool beard guy, I'm talking about? The
Richard Yeah.
Yeah. So they're gonna have to treat Theon somehow. But
and I think that's another arrow in Roose Bolton's quiver. He's saying, well, he can't be, he can't lead us. He won't even kill the guy who took Winterfell.
Jon Snow's mercy is his demise.
Yes.
Mark, why do you not write for fantasy? I love it. That's great. I love it. Yeah. So this is all connecting. Great. That's fantastic.
But the boys were already on the road to Castle Black, right? So
because
that's happened, right? The Maester said, "Go to Castle Black, find Jon."
Yeah. Jon will know what to do.
Yeah. So they're on their way, and then Bran has this vision. He's got to go beyond the wall, and
he starts his whole 3-eyed raven quest.
And then so for Rickon, I think it still happens that Bran says, "Go to Umber, go to Lord John Umber. He will
watch over you,
protect you,
basically until we can get hold of
and
you."
in the show, and I still think in this version, I think the Umber's defect to the Boltons. So so Umber Senior dies all of a sudden, and Umber Younger. So it's his Great John Umber and Little John Umber.
Oh, really?
Great John Umber dies.
Okay.
Little John Umber, because Great John Umber was loyal to the Starks.
Yeah, but he dies questionably, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Nobody knows why. And Little John Umber goes to the Boltons.
Yeah.
And so he goes to Little John Umber, thinking he'll be protected.
Rickon does.
But he's like, oh, perfect. And he takes him to the Dreadfort.
Yes, we can.
And now he's a
take
prisoner.
care of you.
Yeah.
But
now the Boltons have a Stark son. Right? And so
now they got the bargaining chip.
They have a bargaining chip, yes. And I think
that's open rebellion. That is literally
open rebellion. And then I think we have we still have the Battle of the Bastards, right? Or some version of it, right? They John marches on Dreadfort marches on Winterfell. Something happens, right?
So the Starks are on 2 campaigns right now.
Correct.
Full campaigns.
Divided,
which is insane. Okay, all right, I love it. I just want to make sure we're not forgetting the North. But
so the North Army is split, right?
Huge,
because some are with Robb and some are protecting the homeland, right?
The Bolton,
So it's
Robb, you're saying Robb's army's divided,
right? That's why he needs the Riverland army. That's why he needs his Tully army. You know what I mean?
He's mustering his own forces up top because he couldn't bring everybody up north.
Correct.
But then now, of the forces that he has kept in this north, they're now baked in this internal turmoil where they're going to have to muster their own troops now because they're at quarter or half strength, and now they're going to rely on House Mormont to bolster them up because Mormont's not going with Boltons. I can at least say that of all the houses, they're going to be good about it. Mm-hmm. But man, and then I wonder what the implications are. Same thing. Castle Black's like, wait, you're telling me there's a war on the south and the north?
Yeah,
all right.
So I think Rickon still dies. I think he still used his bait. He dies.
Yeah.
So
does Ramsay never get legitimized though? Because the whole war is now based on the legitimacy problem.
Yeah.
I wonder if
because he's not a bastard. Jon Snow's not a bastard anymore.
No, Jon Snow's not. So I'm wondering, how does Ramsay play into that?
Yeah. I didn't even think.
Does he get so discontent that he's like, maybe this Jon Snow guy can freeze? No, he's way too much a sadist. There's no way he's doing anything positive.
Right.
He's, if anything, he still might kill his dad and take over the war.
Yeah.
But then he can't because he's not legitimate.
I hate to say it. Does he? So Theon's out of the picture. Is Rickon his new Theon then?
Oh,
you know what I mean? And he's torturing
Reek.
Yeah, so he's torturing Rickon in that way.
First off, of all the things Game of Thrones got away with, I don't think they could torture an 8-year-old kid like they did Theon. But regardless of the parental controls,
well, in the books you can do whatever you want.
Oh, in the books, the books are so much worse. Jenna told me some of those scenes.
Well, the actors
couldn't have that on the podcast.
They aged the actors and the characters up for the in the show on purpose because there's some things they did to the kids in the books that they couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't possibly. Yeah. I literally, when Jenna was talking, it was funny when she was writing her notes originally. She was like, "Yeah, there's a lot of difference in the book and the show, but the only problem is a lot of this difference. I don't think I could talk on the podcast." I was like, "Oh, really?" And we sat for like a car for like 20 minutes, and she told me everything, and I was like, "Dude, George R. R. Martin should be like imprisoned or checked out." You know what I mean? I'm
and
like,
get this, his first,
crazy.
he cut his teeth writing Beauty and the Beast for Disney, and now he does that.
Really? I didn't know that. Like the animated one? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. But yeah, you know what I mean? No, it's like, what the heck? What just happened here? Yeah, but a lot of those differences are wild. But regardless, I think Ramsey, let's just put a pin on that. There's a little too much there. I don't know how that resolves. Because,
I don't know.
like,
yeah.
Does he go against his father? But even if he goes against his father, there's no claim to him. So I think he recognizes that. So I think he just buys his time.
Maybe he's legitimized. But then, I don't know. Battle of the Bastards just sounds so cool. Like
Oh,
that
no,
title,
no.
right?
I think
And
you
they
should have
Well,
it.
and actually, I guess he was legitimized by the time the battle started, right? Ramsey was.
Well, Ramsey was, but
But
if we're going off the Civil War based on the legitimacy,
Yeah.
or maybe that's okay because now Bruce is like, hey, fine, you know what? I have my troops, you have your troops, and you legitimize him. Fine, I'll legitimize my son, and he does it like out of spite.
Yeah.
and hopefully that doesn't like change anything. Maybe so.
Yeah.
So let's say it keeps playing on because the Battle of the Bastards is so cool. You can't miss that.
Yeah.
I think we keep it.
Yeah.
I think you have to keep
Yeah.
it. And I think Rickon's still there, but now Rickon's Reek. Ooh.
Yeah.
Then does he like go in and try to do some coercion? I don't
Well,
know. Like,
I
that's
think
crazy.
he still dies because if he still dies, John doesn't get to talk to him to see that Bran's still alive. So now they just assume Bran's dead.
Oh yeah.
So now they're back to John is the heir because my
yeah,
actual brothers are dead.
Which yeah.
And
I
then
mean,
Bran
you
comes
have to.
back later,
Well,
but-
because you don't know where Arya is, and you have
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Not what's Sansa. Sansa. You still have Sansa in the movie.
Well, she's Joffrey's prisoner right now. Sansa is.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like of the kids.
Yeah.
Like basically, it still makes John the most legitimate because Arya's not around. Rickon was their Bran and Rickon were their last hope.
Yeah.
And you can't do much.
Yeah. Well, with Arya, I have in here that I'm not sure in the book, but in the show, the Hound had captured her and was going to bring her to the Starks for a ransom.
Yeah.
And they were at the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
So if they were at the wedding and it didn't go haywire, then maybe he would have turned her over and he would have got money and they parted ways. So Arya may be there now.
Wow.
That's a different thread to pull on, but
I love that though.
Yeah.
Now Arya's involved.
Yeah.
She doesn't get her cool arc though, but Arya's now involved.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, technically Arya has to be involved because she would technically be in the deal. She's got to marry the 22nd son.
Well, not in the
show,
but in the book.
In the book,
Yeah.
Arya at this point, that is a really great question. How could he make that deal with Arya when Arya was out? See, that's why, like, oh
It's
my gosh,
different.
you have to, yeah. But
That's
like,
why we need,
at what
we
point
need
does
we need the
we need the master? We need Jenna in here.
yeah, the subject
sage.
matter
Yeah, subject matter
expert.
expert. Yeah, it's me.
Okay. So you got the battle of the Civil War in the North, right?
Yes.
Meanwhile, I think Rob's forces have made it across Frey's Bridge and made it to River Run. Okay.
Yep.
And he sends for John, and he's not getting anything because John's in the middle of a war.
Oh, the heat of battle.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah, because
think.
how does that messaging? Yeah.
Well, so I think at the end of the day, John will be superior.
Of it, yeah, he wins
right?
out. Of
He
the
wins.
North. Yep.
A shattered North, but he wins. Okay. And I think then Rob sends for him to come and join him down here
To the north.
in
South,
River
south,
Run.
south.
Yeah. But here's the opportunity now for Walder Frey. John needs to cross the bridge.
Oh, you think he's gonna double down?
So he could, well, not double down, but he could.
Well, he's got to remake the deal because he could just say, "Hey, by the way, you're a friend of us now. You're Stark.
Yeah.
I now have a deal with the Starks that they can cross this bridge. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And he could be a good steward to his house and to the house in which they just been joined by marriage, the Starks. Or he could play the classic Frey and double down and say, that deal was only for this one. I have six more daughters.
Yeah. Well, because I think so. Tywin knows that the Boltons lost, right?
Yes.
So now he's got to look for other avenues to take down the Starks. So who does he turn to? Walder Frey.
Okay.
And he goes, hey, we both know that the Boltons was a failed game. But I believe in you, and I believe in your, Tywin's buttering Walder up, right?
Exactly.
He goes,
hey, by the way, the Lannister house married to your house. We believed in you.
Yep.
We've shown it through our marriages.
Yes.
Boom.
We can even do another one, whatever. So he convinces Walder Frey, and I think, Jon Snow's coming, and Jon Snow thinks it'll be an easy passage, right? He might spend the night there, have a nice dinner, right of the guest, and then go on his way. But he gets Walder Frey locks him up, essentially.
The Red Gathering.
Yeah, the Red Gathering, right?
Gathering,
doesn't kill him. Or he could kill him.
Yeah,
he could kill him.
Yeah.
But he's captured, right?
Yeah, but
because he needs
too much.
He doesn't want to kill him because he still wants leverage over Robb.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because you lose all leverage with Robb. Robb would come back. Because here's the thing, too. Robb has crossed at this point.
Yeah.
Robb is already northern.
Correct.
Robb's already bolstered and mustered his troops. So the last thing Walter wants to do is do something to provoke him to go back down. So he wants to do something enough mischievous that is not going to cause Robb to turn his back, but might slap him in the wrist later on.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. So, and I put in here, his wife's struggling to conceive because this is probably several months in the making now, right?
Oh,
so now there's Robb. So he doesn't have like an heir on the line. So now that Jon is captured, does he press on with his siege of King's Landing to save his sister, his full-blooded sister?
Yeah.
Or does he turn his army around and siege the twins to save his half-brother and heir?
Yeah.
And now he's at that dilemma.
But I feel like the other thing, too, is Robb's got to go... Robb's has to go south. He's got to take over the throne, and then he could just... The Frey problem, you can solve yourself out.
Yeah.
But the only problem is, though, is that it's going to be a whole lot harder. Because I think the other thing, too, is that Jon came with troops. The troops are now gathered. He can come down and he can come back to the Freys and say, slap the wrist, what are you doing? I'm trying my best. Hell, I'll marry a second daughter. And then you can grab Jon Snow and the rest of the troops and then move north. But yeah, I feel like the Freys fundamentally are always going to be a roadblock. Mm-hmm. Even if you've treated them positively before.
Yeah.
The only chip that they have is that bridge. So any crossing on that bridge has to be monetized to the fullest extent.
Yes.
Because if it's not, they've lost. They officially have lost.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because then Tywin's going to be in there. Maybe he goes, triple it. If they don't pay it, I'll pay it. Kind of thing.
Yeah. With my 0 gold reserves. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, because they all dried up. I forgot about that.
That was one of my favorite quotes. They're like, "How much gold do you think the Lannisters' mines produced this last year?" And I think, Tyrion just goes, "Do you want pounds? Do you want?" He goes, "It doesn't matter. It's 0." And then that's like a big opening. Like, oh my gosh! Like, so we're literally acting like we're the richest house,
but you're broke.
But in reality, we're just so far in debt.
Yeah.
But we have all this power. It seems like we're rich, but we're really not. Yeah. But I did like that quote just because it was such a hard, doesn't matter, all 0. It's like, oh, shoot. But, no.
And that's why the Lannisters were fighting so hard, is because they literally had nothing else.
Exactly. So that's why when they took over the, the Flower people, the person who originally killed Joffrey. House Tyrell.
Elena Tyrell, yeah.
Yeah.
Highgarden.
Yep. So that's why when they took over them, they're like, oh, Iron Bank. Here you go. Here's all of our debt paid off. So now they're back at 0 and whatever. But, Mark, do you have any other points? Mark, that was fantastic. I like how we approached that. Yeah. We got a pre, and then we got the actual what if, and you killed. Dude, I love all those connection points. They're so much fun to think about. Yeah, no, that's how I mean, obviously, we could do another episode and go further, but that's how I capped it. I think that's how you cap it. Yeah. I think you got to leave it up to, what would happen. Yeah, no, I really like that. I really like how that
Me too.
Played out. Yeah. That's really fun. But... All right, so Mark, do you want to go to a mix-up?
Yeah,
we'll do a quick mix-up, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm been a while,
I'm excited.
So.
Yeah, because it has been a very long time. All right, so
yes,
Mark, I have Fight Night.
Fight Night, okay. So a little classic there.
I know.
All right, Fight Night.
Yep. So we need 2 names.
So we got Crabbe and Goyle.
Nice. Funny how I paired them up. My bad.
And the Gaffer.
The Gaffer?
Yeah.
I love that.
Samwise's dad.
Yeah. The Gaffer.
Some would say wizards, but these two are not the brightest, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
like,
hobbits are pretty resourceful, so...
Yeah, first off, Crabbe and Goyle would have to find the Gaffer. I feel like that's option one. That's just
Yeah.
no chance. And I will say, I'm going to do, you know what? I'm going to change Fight Night a little bit. Because here's the thing. I believe this would turn not to a fight night, but friendship. Remember in movie 2, Chamber of Secrets, they get the Polyjuice Potion into Crabbe and Goyle, virtue of all those traits.
Yes.
What do the hobbits have a plethora of? They got nothing but treats and foods. So I think the Gaffer would recognize
some
he would
husky
eye
men.
up, he would eye up the outsiders and go, hey, we got, some of the finest wine from the Prancing Pony imported, right? We got some of the finest weed of the Shire.
Yep.
From
Ale.
North Farthing.
Yes, ale from the Green Dragon.
Exactly. Ale from, what more could you possibly want? Let's not fight. Light up a pipe. Let's start, drinking and let's eat. I feel like they resolve.
Hobbits aren't fighters.
No way. Yeah,
So-
yeah. And if anything, they'd be like.
And let's be real, Crabbe and Goyle aren't if they don't need to be.
That's exactly. Because here's the thing: Draco's not going to be there telling him no.
Yeah.
So let's even spice this up more. Draco's like, hey, you need to take out the Gaffer for whatever reason. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe Lucius Malfoy has something against the Shire. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
he gave Lucius the wrong tea bag. I don't know.
yeah, something.
My father knew about this.
Yeah, father. Yeah. But the whole point is that I feel like they would go with the intention of fighting, but then lose track because the Gaffer's going to be like, hey,
Yeah.
like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
I mean, if you want to fight, sure, but can we finish dinner first? Dinner and supper?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, it's like do you ever watch like the Family Guy where it was like, man, like lab testing was so difficult, and it shows Peter with a bunch of lab mice. Mm-hmm. Like they want us to find the cheese, and he like pulls out a joint. He's like, but what if we just chill? You know what I mean? That's what I always think of. Like, what if we fight? But what if we just like chill? He pulls out a pipe and just like a cup of ale, and they're like, all right, you know what I mean? They rip it. You know, that'd be so much fun. So I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I really feel like...
Yeah, no, I agree.
But they had to fight. I mean, Crabbe and Goyle.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're wizards.
And they have to. I mean, the Gaffer, if he could muster up the hobbits, maybe?
Yeah.
Or just like, if there's a time limit on the fight, I feel like Gaffer could outlast them.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, he could hide and be resourceful enough to...
Well, because they'd be surprised because they'd hear wizards and picture Gandalf.
Yeah, you're right.
And then
see Crabbe and Goyle be like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, these are two blue wizards? Oh my gosh, Crabbe and Goyle, the two blue wizards. Like, whoa!
Smallest staffs I've ever seen.
Yeah, like what the, But they'd be green because they're Slytherin. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just saying like the robes would be green because Slytherin, but no, that'd be wild too because they're not.
The text,
no one in
the text
Harry
was just
Potter-
mistranslated, Tony. It's the green wizards, not the blue
it's
wizards,
the green.
you know?
Yeah. Easy mistake. But now that I'm thinking about it though, the only staffs you ever see in Harry Potter are when Victor Crumb's school, Durmstrang, comes in with the boom, boom.
Well, Mad Eye has a staff too, remember?
Boom.
Because his wand's in it. His wand's in his
You're
staff.
right. Okay, so never mind. I misspoke there.
You know.
Oh, actually, that's all of the fourth movie. Dude, who directed that? They're like, dude, let's bring staffs into this.
Yeah.
Because they actually, did they mention that in the book?
I think
That
so.
Mad Eye has a staff?
I think so because he's got a metal
Durmstrang
leg.
students never, they didn't mention that.
That was just for show.
entrance.
But
Yeah.
Mad Eye needed it because he had a metal leg and it was to help him walk.
Oh, it's kind of like the umbrella with Hagrid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But so there's one staff.
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to
That's
say,
it,
like,
though.
actually, you never see a staff.
Well, I mean, I
in-
guess. Well, Lucius is a cane. Lucius Malfoy is a cane. It's different.
Yeah,
from a
but
staff.
when he uses it,
he
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Which I guess I was. Jason Isaacs was talking to Christopher Columbus, who was the director of the second movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They had something completely different, like planned for Lucius Malfoy. It was like a kind of like what Dumbledore in the Fantastic Beasts wear. It's like a Muggle, aristocrat outfit. And he goes, he's like, he hates Muggles. He would not want to.
Yeah, he would never put beneath himself.
Yeah, and so because it was like a low haircut, right? Very very prim and proper suit. And
okay.
So he goes to the costume department. He's like, "You have any like a wig of some sort, like blonde hair?" And they're like, "Well, we got this woman's wig." And he goes, "I'll take it."
Yeah.
Do you have a cape? Well, we have this like curtain. I'll take it. And so he, it was a crude of like what what ended up being his
Wow.
outfit.
Okay.
And Chris Columbus is like, "What's this?" And he goes, and Jason Isaacs explained to him what he was
Full,
thinking.
like,
Yeah,
Lucius.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's just like, I'm not wearing a Muggle outfit. This is and it
Yeah.
sold Chris Columbus. Like, done. Okay, we're
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for getting hired on.
Yeah.
Because that would have mattered. I
Yeah.
mean, because it is curious to see how much Muggle attire they actually, like, wear. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I think the other thing, too, is that I thought you were going with the whole wand thing because Jason Isaac talks about it.
Yeah.
And one of his first scenes with Draco, Tom Felton, is when they're in, oh my gosh, Burns and Bolts. What's the
Borgin and Burks.
Borgin and Burks, thank you. And he's checking out the stuff, and he says, "Don't touch Draco," and he puts his staff.
Yeah.
So in the movie, it shows him just, like, hitting the statue, but apparently Jason Isaacs didn't realize, but when he did it from the first take, the fangs of the snake actually went into Tom's hands. So he actually went into Tom's hand, and he didn't realize it, and he said afterwards, like, he, like, hugged me, he's like, "Oh my gosh, like, are you okay? Like, I didn't mean to." He's like,
Yeah.
And Tom's like, "Oh no, that was a good take. That was a really good take." And, like, Tom was just being really cool about it, but no, so I thought you were going with that, because, like, yeah.
Well, because there's another scene where they're in Dumbledore's office, and he accidentally hits Daniel Radcliffe, like, in the head, like he's turning, and, like, his cane, like, hits him or something.
Oh.
And they do cut, and he goes, "Oh, sweetheart, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Because he's, like, the
Sweetest guy, yeah. But it has been, like, the most cruel.
Yeah. But it's also really cool that, because him and Tom Felton still have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
And Tom Felton still calls him Dad. Like, when they talk, he goes, "Hey, Dad."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's just, my second dad. Yeah, whatever. That's awesome. But yeah, no, I think we saw that fight night. I think that was a little less. Would it be made into a Fast and Furious movie? I don't think so. But hey,
Yeah.
I think that'd be a really cool, chill, lo-fi, episode.
They can't all be winners,
No, it's still a winner.
Oh,
I love the
but
result
not,
of it.
yeah.
But you can't have a blockbuster off
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the FX budget on that one is not going to be high. But, Mark, I totally appreciate it. That was super fun. I really enjoyed that What If. It's always good to go back. It's always good to go back to the OG.
Roots.
You know what I mean? This is the first ever episode theme. So it's a lot of fun. I love it.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Please reach out to us with questions, mix-up ideas, what-if ideas, really anything,
Yeah, we are, like we said, we're repeating mix-ups, so love to have more of that. We're actually in dire needs of those, so we totally appreciate it. And if you have said, hey, where can we post these mix-ups, you can go on Instagram or X with the Live Laugh Lore Pod, and you can also email us at the livelaughLorePod@gmail.com. That's livelaughLorePod, POD, @gmail.com.
Thanks, guys.